name's Jorin.
And my name's Carol.
And today we're here to talk to you about how to connect with your audience. More specifically, how to connect with them while you're giving a presentation.
We will look at this in two different parts: techniques with questions and engagement through examples. Let's take a look first at questioning techniques. The first one we'll talk about is direct questions. Direct questions typically suggest a yes or no answer or a simple and clear response. These are questions you would usually ask your friends, family, or people you are close with.
Firstly, direct questions usually prompt a simple answer. So if I ask the audience, do you learn Mandarin in school? We can see that it's a clear, simple question with a simple yes or no answer.
One of the risks we run into when asking a direct question is that the audience may not realize we want them to respond and may stay quiet.
This is because you're not addressing any one audience member, but the audience as a whole.
And if the audience is feeling shy about being the first person to speak, they might not respond at all.
This puts us, the presenters, in an awkward position.
You are relying completely on them to take initiative of their response.
One way of minimizing this issue is by choosing a member of the audience or a small section of your audience and asking them the question directly, rather than depending on your audience as a whole. For example, what's your name?
My name's Carol.
Can you tell me, did you learn Mandarin in school?
Oh, no.
And there we have it, a simple, clear response and engagement with the audience.
A second technique we can use to promote audience engagement is to ask questions which involve some sort of physical response, questions with an action. This can be more effective than asking direct questions because the audience responds physically rather than orally, which will encourage them to answer.
For example, please raise your hand if you learned Mandarin in school. It's better to give a clear instruction, such as raise your hand, rather than asking the general question, who here learned Mandarin in school? If your instructions are not clear, this can also lead to a lack of response on the part of your audience. The third questioning technique that we will look at is rhetorical questions. By asking a rhetorical question, we don't require a response from the audience, but it does engage the audience because it gets them to think about the topic and possible responses.
These also assume you already know how the audience will respond. For example, learning Mandarin in school is extremely useful, isn't it? This does not require a response from the audience, but it does start them thinking about the usefulness of learning Mandarin in school.
Now let's look at how we can engage an audience through examples. The three that we'll talk about today are personal, real life, and hypothetical experiences.
Firstly, let's take a look at personal experiences. These are experiences that you, the speaker, have gone through. For example, while living in Hong Kong, I've managed to pick up some of the local language. And while I can communicate with locals, I still can't talk to the mainlanders I meet every day. Because although I can understand a little of what they're saying, they cannot understand anything I say.
The second type are real-life experiences. This could be something that has not happened to you personally, but maybe to someone you know. Something you've heard about, read about, or even have seen on the internet. But it has to be true. No fake news here. Let's take the example of a friend of mine who works at a local restaurant. A couple came in and asked him in Mandarin what they should order off the menu. And although he could understand them, they couldn't understand his response in Cantonese. Pointing worked initially, but the follow-up questions were a pain.
The last example is a hypothetical. These can be the most difficult, but are the most effective, because they get the audience to start thinking about the topic.
Have you ever been in a lecture and the professor asks a question to get you thinking about the topic before they go into more detail?
Did you find yourself thinking about it? And did that get you more engaged with the topic?
This is why hypotheticals are effective. They get your audience thinking and engaged before you even get into the meat of the topic.
They can be difficult because you have to make up a story, which may be harder than retelling a personal or real-life experience.
Most hypotheticals start with a statement, such as, think for a moment, or imagine. So let's give that a try.
Imagine that it was suddenly announced that Mandarin would replace Cantonese as a language of instruction in schools in Hong Kong.
Think about the difficulties it would create now and in the future for individuals going about their day-to-day business, as well as between family members. Throughout this presentation, we've looked at 6 different techniques to help you connect with your audience.
The first 3 were questioning techniques: direct questions, questions with an action, and rhetorical questions.
We then went over examples: personal, real life, and hypothetical.
We hope this video has shown you new ways of engaging with your audience. so that by using one or more of these techniques throughout your presentation, it will be more interesting and effective.
Try to think outside the box.
Be creative,
And most importantly,
have fun.